On this rock I stand. Vaccine mandates and vaccine passports are immoral, they're unpatriotic, and they're not on. And instead of calling all these people at the rallies anti-vaxxers, see them for who they are. They're freedom fighters. And they're fighting for your rights that you've given away. Can't go to cities 'cause they're all locked down. I can't hug me grandkids, they're in the next town. And even with my mask on, you can still see me frown. I still call Australia home. Well, here we go again. My name's Graham Hood and I am a 53-year veteran in aviation. I've been a pilot for 53 years. I've been an employee of Qantas for 32 years and had my command with Qantas for 32 years. I've been employed by TAA, Australian Airlines, Air Queensland, Bush Pilot Airways. I've been a crop dusting pilot. I have been a charter pilot. I've flown the venerable DC-3 around Cape York and the Gulf of Carpentaria. And I'm a very proud Australian and a proud employee of Qantas. But that's all struggling with me a little bit at the moment. I have flown some 35,000 hours. I have done 20,000 takeoffs and landings. I have spent 2,800 nights or so in hotel rooms. That amounts to almost 8 years in hotel rooms. I've done 175 simulators. I think I've passed all of them. I've been thoroughly tested with over 50 medical examinations to hold my licence. And everything I stand for is now being threatened by a ridiculous mandate that I cannot support. It's a mandate that all aviation workers in the industry are now being forced to adopt, and that is no jab, no job. And a timeline's been set on for goodness sake, has been set on no jab, no job. I've done a lot in my career. I'm very proud of what I've achieved in my career. I left school at the age of 13, or I stopped going to school at 13. I had a juvenile criminal record by the time I was 17. I've struggled with all life's issues. I've made several television programs about my addiction to pornography over the years that I've struggled with, the things that have taken me to the edge. I've been so close to the black dog pushing me over a cliff a couple of times years back that I don't like to recall. It's all out there. I don't care what people think of me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I just try hard not to stick my arm in the toilet. I work with my wife running a ministry that supports the adult victims of childhood sexual abuse. My wife was one of those. She appeared in the Royal Commission, the Sexual Abuse Royal Commission. I deal a lot with men who have pornography addiction and who are depressed and suicidal. I've been in welfare in the company unofficially for many years. I've been a trusted confidant of many a pilot and flight attendant who I've worked with. I feel I have the respect and love and gratitude of a lot of people I've worked with over the years because I've always tried to keep it real and I've always been really honest. And that's why I'm making this video now. I'm making this video now because I think what's going on is absolutely criminal. I am not against vaccinations. Everybody who makes videos like this says that, but I can back it up. I gave approval for my mother in a nursing home to be vaccinated with Pfizer 6 months ago, obviously not knowing what I know now. I have also been jabbed for tetanus just recently after being bitten by a feral cat at the farm. I'm not against vaccinations. Am I about to retire anyway and live off a fat superannuation scheme? No, I need to work for another 2 years, if possible. I don't have any super left because while I might have been a good pilot, I've been a very bad financial manager, and issues in my life have caused me to go down some wrong pathways financially. If I lose my job, I will lose my income, and that will leave me completely without funds. I live on a self-sufficient property with my wife, who has degrees in nursing, law and psychology, who has many friends in the healthcare sector who are nurses who she's worked with all her life, who are still working and who are perplexed by these draconian rules that apply to them in order that they must have to be jabbed to keep their job, and they do not trust the vaccine from what they've seen. They don't believe that it's being properly tested, and they believe it's being rushed through, and so do many doctors. I ask you to look at the website, which is the CMN, the COVID Medical Network. There is a letter there, an 8-page letter, which states all of the concerns that anybody must be experiencing if they've held back on this vaccine. The fact that they're holding back is because they're not relying on Karl Stefanovic or David Koch to tell them what to do. They're actually turning off Big Brother, they're turning off My Kitchen Stinks, and they're going into the web to wade through the plethora of rubbish that's in there to find real truth, and they're finding lots of it. They're finding truth from doctors and scientists who have no vested interest in this financially, who are saying, hold the phone, stop this nonsense, we are going down the wrong track, and they are not being listened to. I'm trained as a pilot in Qantas to listen to the concerns of my crew in an emergency situation. There is a terminology that's used. If I hear it, I immediately switch to what my co-pilot is telling me. That terminology is, Captain, you must listen. And when I hear that word, that phrase, I stop what I'm doing and I focus straight on what the issue is that the co-pilot's trying to bring to my attention. Australia, you must listen. You must listen. I'm putting my career, my 53-year career, towards an ignominious end by making this video. I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. What you think of me is none of my business. But I would rather stand on your toes today than stand by your grave in the future. I'll run that risk. As for me and my house, we're not convinced yet. I cannot give confirmed informed consent to this vaccine because it has not been properly tested. Long-term effects are still yet to be analysed. The Minister for Health, Greg Hunt, says long-term effects will not be known at least till the end of 2022. I address my comments firstly in order to Qantas. Firstly, I say to Qantas that the survey that you conducted was a scam. The survey you conducted drew answers from 12,000 people who were happy to respond to a survey that the other 10,000 people felt was flawed and felt threatened by filling in because they couldn't be honest. That's the truth. 86% of the people you surveyed who answered the questions were in favour of mandatory vaccination. Why anyone would be in favour of anything mandatory that destroys our rights as human beings under the Constitution is beyond me, but all I can say is that they've had enough. They want to move on. They want to get back to flying. They want to get back to having a normal life. Well, I'm maybe breaking some news to you right now. For those of you who think that being vaccinated is going to return us to a normal life, have a look at the news today from Mr. Tedros, or I should call him Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization, who announced that there is a new pandemic coming. There is a new virus that's not linked to COVID, and it's called Marburg. And his advice is for countries to prepare to treat Marburg as they have treated COVID. A different vaccination is already being worked on. Hooray! They knew about it before they announced it. They've been working on the vaccine for a while. So not only are you going to be vaccinated almost weekly, as it'll turn out, with COVID vaccine, you're now going to be vaccinated for Marburg. And your freedoms will be taken away from you because Marburg will give Daniel Andrews and his like another opportunity to lock you all up. It's not over, people. Think about this. It just is not over. So Qantas, this mandate is forcing people to fly under duress at the moment because a lot of people are deeply concerned about their future. Bad move. You have policies in place about diversity and workplace bullying and work health and safety. Work health and safety, you're making your flight attendants wear masks all day long, suffocating on their own carbon dioxide. Wrong. You said earlier in a press release when this whole thing came to light that the safest place you could be is in an aeroplane because the air gets changed every few minutes. Now you're saying we've got to vaccinate because the most unsafe place to be is in an aircraft. Which is it? Have you made a decision yet? Which is it? These policies that relate to no workplace bullying and diversity, you brought it out. Alan Joyce, you were the champion of same-sex marriage. And you were victorious. And good on you. I admire your guts and your tenacity. But now you're introducing a whole set of new circumstances where people are going to be vilified for making a decision that they think is right based on what they know to be true. And that includes gay and lesbian people, atheists, Islamists, Christians, blacks and whites who work for Qantas. They're all going to be discriminated now based on whether they've had a vaccine or not. And what is it about an airline that is forcing its pilots and air crews to get vaccinated where they may have blood clots in a blood clot rich environment? If you look at the videos that we play to our passengers about deep vein thrombosis, that you're prepared to risk all that so we get the airline flying again. Well, the airline's going to get flying again whether I'm vaccinated or not, and whether my friends are vaccinated or not. It doesn't matter. It will fly again until Marburg hits the road. And then it's all over again. A couple of friends of mine died with HIV/AIDS. It was terrible. But in a way I was glad they died because they were being persecuted because they were living a lifestyle that put them in that position. And it was terrible what they went through. People avoided them like they had the plague. You know about that, Alan. You work in this environment. You know this situation. You're a champion for people who would have been victims of HIV/AIDS. You probably had many friends who've died from it. And now the same persecution is going to be visited on me because I'm deciding to wait until the proof comes in. Is that what you stand for? Really? Come on, you've done a lot to keep this airline viable through this disaster. I applaud a lot of the things you've done, even though there are some of your policies I've outwardly argued with you over, to the point that I got stood down from flying duties for 2 weeks on one occasion. But I have nothing against you. It's the system, and the system stinks. There are wives who are saying, if you don't get vaccinated and you lose your job, you lose me and the children. You pay us good money to make critical safety decisions every single day. I've made hundreds of thousands of them successfully for Qantas. And here I am applying the same analogy, applying the same mode of thinking to whether I get vaccinated or not, and I cannot give an informed consent yet. And you're asking me to do what is against my grain as an operating pilot to do, and that's take chances I don't believe I should take. Unions, you're the same. You're desperate to see your members flying again. So am I. I've flown hardly at all in 18 months. I want to get back flying. I'll probably blow my chances by saying what I'm saying now, making it public, but I don't care. It is what it is. CASA, Civil Aviation Safety Authority. When the 737 MAX was sent into service in America, the Boeing company sent out something that shouldn't have been certified because there were secrets in the design of that aeroplane that were deadly and nobody knew about it. Who signed off on it? Your equivalent in America, the FAA. They signed off on it. 400 people lost their lives. Boeing nearly went broke. And CASA, are you any different? You've been deathly silent about whether pilots should have the vaccine or not. You've been deathly silent. You run some of the most stringent medicals in aviation in the world. We can't take codeine because it might affect our ability to make careful decisions. If I go to sleep after a long meal Christmas Day lunchtime, you think I've got sleep apnea and you'll pull my licence. Every 6 months I struggle to make sure that all your boxes are ticked so that I can keep flying. Stress ECGs, ophthalmology, ear tests, blood tests. And now you're saying just rely on the advice of your designated medical examiner who is a GP, who's only reading the stuff that the World Health Organization is pushing through our government. The World Health Organization. You remember them, they're part of the United Nations. They're the part of the group that brought you the genocide in Rwanda. Hundreds of thousands of people hacking themselves to death in front of UN soldiers who were peacekeepers who weren't allowed to do anything. It's wrong. CASA, if there's an accident, there have already been pilots who've suffered side effects from these vaccines. If there's an accident or an incident, you will be held accountable. You will be. And rightfully so. Scott Morrison. What a disappointment. You said in a press conference the other day, you were asked questions about vaccines, and you said, we are a free country. We don't mandate vaccines. That's not who we are. We believe everybody should make responsible decisions based on their informed consent. Are you serious? You know why you haven't mandated vaccines? You do know, because it's unconstitutional. It is against the Constitution that you've been elected and sworn to protect. That's why. You haven't got the guts to change the Constitution, so you're palling it up with the CEOs of organisations all around the companies to get them to do your dirty work for you. And you call yourself a Christian. Go back to your Bible, Mr. Morrison. Read the book of Revelation. It might give you a hint on where we're heading with all this. State premiers, McGowan, good on you. You've isolated 18 of my grandkids and 5 of my children from me and my wife for the last 3 years, based on garbage. They have been without their grandparents for all that long. And you're running around, strutting around like the king of the universe. For goodness sake, man, grow up and have a look at what you're doing. How many people in your state are killing themselves because their businesses have gone bad? Daniel Andrews. Don't get me started. Draconian Dan. Draconian Dan. You said yesterday in a press conference that anybody who's not vaccinated will not be given a hospital bed in your system because you don't want to put your system under stress. Well, if your system can't handle the stress, it's because you were the health minister for 2 terms. You were. The health system's not up to it because of your governance. And what are you going to do? If you're really serious about saving lives, ban fast food. Ban sweet drinks, ban tobacco, ban alcohol. You'll save thousands, but you won't make any money, will you? Because there's no excise on COVID. For goodness sake, man. You can't mention the name Margaret Court. You can't even mention her name because it makes you ill. That's how I feel when I hear your name. That's how I feel. Moving up the coast, Gladys Berejiklian, you were a champ in the bushfires. Man, I was proud of you. I thought you were the best politician I've ever seen. Then you went into COVID and you managed it the same way. You were pragmatic. You were honest. You tried to keep an even keel. But then the media got stuck into you. That cruise ship came in and one of your health bureaucrats really blew it. One of the team that give you the medical advice, you said, which is the best in the world, which now includes don't talk to your neighbour if you've got a mask on. Don't talk to your neighbour. You've got a health minister who reminds me of the bully that I thumped when I was 10 years old at school, the only person I ever hit in my life. I'm wondering if it's the same guy. Brad Hazard, did you ever go to Paddington Primary School? For goodness sake, man. Listen to the doctors and nurses who are telling you that this is garbage. Stop being the henchman. Unbelievable. Then I go to Queensland. It was heartbreaking on the weekend to see fathers leaning across plastic barriers at the Tweed Coast border to hug their children that they're not allowed to go and visit. It's like a plastic Berlin Wall. Oh, and you're claiming all the credit. I do this for Queenslanders. Good on you. Good on you. But then when the tough questions get asked, like what about that woman who's trying to get across the border to finish her cancer treatment before she dies? Oh, let me defer to my chief medical officer, whom I get the best medical advice from. Make the most of that because she's going to be in Government House soon, isn't she? She's going to be the next Governor General. I don't blame the CMOs. They're in a position that they would never dreamt they'd be in when they entered public service. It's tough for them. But by goodness, they're making some dreadful decisions and you're implementing them. Police. I wear a uniform like you do, and we have a lot of empathy for guys in uniform. I talk to you at the border crossings every day when I can get across. This isn't what you signed up for. A lot of your colleagues are starting to say enough's enough, this has got to stop. Join them. Join them, stand with them. This is not what you signed up for. A video the other day, what about 14 policemen subduing a 12-year-old girl for not wearing a mask in a Sydney shopping centre and then pepper spraying her? Is that what you signed up for? To be Brad Hazzard's henchman? Military. You're patrolling state borders to keep Australians from Australians. You've done tours in Afghanistan. Your colleagues were killed by roadside bombs and shot at by friendly soldiers in their own units and killed. And for what? For nothing. For nothing. And when you come home with your honours, you're scared to show them because now we live in a society where we want to strip our soldiers of their honours when they were doing the dirty work that none of us had the guts to do ourselves. It sickens me. And so now to my colleagues. Some of you aren't going to like what I'm saying. What you think of me is none of my business. I don't care. But know this, the rules in Qantas that protect people against prejudice apply to you. So if you're saying that natural selection is going to deal with the idiots who don't get vaccinated and you're not mindful of the fact that there might be people in your group who aren't vaccinated, then more fool you. If you're saying you're doing this out of patriotism and a sense of doing the right thing by your community, then don't in the very next breath say that you wish everybody who hasn't been vaccinated rots in their home without any privileges. Don't claim it. That's cheap patriotism. And it doesn't wash with me. It doesn't wash with me. And if anybody has been vaccinated because they felt the need to, because they've got to pay their mortgage and they want to get on there with their career, you have my support. You have the right to make your own decision. But don't damn me for being cautious. That's not on. That's not what we are. That's not the spirit of Australia, the flying kangaroo. It's not what we are. The only thing that's kept me sane in the last 18 months is Jesus Christ. And I'm not ashamed of that either, even though that's unfashionable. And I'd rather say what pleases him than what pleases men, because there's nothing I can say to men that could possibly please God if it pleased men. Galatians 1:10. On this rock I stand. Vaccine mandates and vaccine passports are immoral, they're unpatriotic, and they're not on. And instead of calling all these people at the rallies anti-vaxxers, see them for who they are. They're freedom fighters. And they're fighting for your rights that you've given away. So stop labelling them and get out there and join them. Stand in silent protest. I stand with the truckies and anybody else who's standing against this draconian nation that we've become. We're not a nation anymore anyway. We're a conglomerate of little state dictatorships which are ultimately run by CEOs of big corporations. It's garbage. Two-party politics is finished. You all eat at the same table. Albanese and Morrison, you all go to the same restaurant. People like Palmer, people like Hanson, people like Lambie, those people are going to get more and more power, and they deserve it because you don't. This has happened on your watch, and your people will hold you to account. This is probably the last time I'll ever wear this uniform. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to serve my airline and my country with pride. If I never fly again, it will be a bit of disappointment. But I will not sit in front of a television saying, why don't they do something, knowing that the they is me. Time to wake up, Australia. We're on final approach to land. It's been a pleasure serving you. I've done it safely and with pride and with dignity and with authenticity, and that's how I will live my life to the rest of my days. I pray this is not the last time I wear the uniform, but I've got a feeling now I've probably blown it. But so be it. Take care, look after your families, start loving one another, and stay out of the trees. God bless you.